Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Radio Geonosis, where we talk about Star Wars from a certain point of view. I'm Angie.
And I'm Aaron. What's going on?
And today we're going to be talking about Mandalorian lore. Yes. Did a lot of homework this week. It was a lot to write, so I'm like, I hope I don't just keep going on and on and on and on and on.
It's okay, because there's a lot.
Yeah, it was really cool. But before we do that, we're going to do some hot happenings this week. So, as you know, on September 22nd, NerdBot is coming to Pasadena. Yes, the Pasadena.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be at their not Civic Center, but their like concert hall or wherever they put on, like a convention center. Mm-hmm. And then the Skywalker Temple, Saber Guild Skywalker Temple, will have a booth there. We're also going to be having treats in the streets in the city of Orange. And that is, Saber Guild usually does a show, and that's going to be on the we're talking about October now. It's going to be on the 26th. Okay. That's a Thursday. That's a whole lot of fun. At the end of the month, I will be with the Saber Guild at Newport Beach Library for like a Star Wars day.
Oh, awesome.
So that's a lot of fun. And then LA Comic Con is coming to LA October 26th. To the 28th. All right, so here's a fun one. Episode 9, rumors, and we should take this with a grain of salt. There could be a major plot twist involving General Hux, as we'll learn that he is actually a traitor within the First Order.
I heard about that. I'm not sure how. I don't know. I heard about it though.
He
Major plot twist, though.
Yeah, he seems like a kind of a slimy guy. I can see that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and because he doesn't believe that Kylo Ren is fit to be a leader, so he's going to do whatever he can to take him down. He believes helping the Resistance take down Ren will open the door for him being able to be in charge of the First Order.
But from episode 7 and 8, you saw that already. You saw the jealousy. You saw, like, him feeling Kylo Ren isn't fit just due to the baggage he comes with and the mental aspect of things. So you kind of see that coming. I don't know if it's a major plot twist, but it might be like a bigger picture kind of thing just for General Hux. Well, I kind of know that. I kind of knew like he just didn't feel Kylo Ren as being more worthy than him.
Right, you know but it seems like every leader of like since Palpatine, they have to have some sort of force power.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know. I just kind of think that it kind of wouldn't make sense if there isn't someone with force power leading the charge. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. You know, it's a new day.
Yeah. Because I know what you're saying, though. It's usually someone in that position, in that seat, has a force power, has a strong connection with the Force.
Right.
So if General Hux wanted that seat or wanted that power, wanted to obtain that kind of power, we would kind of be walked over because he doesn't have any. He's not that tied to the Force. He's kind of, you know.
Right.
So I don't. Maybe in a stronger dictatorship kind of role, maybe a higher seat, maybe. I don't know.
He seems kind of bloodthirsty.
He absolutely. And in episode 8, when Kylo Ren was going through his whole scene with the hologram Luke Skywalker, if you will, and telling the ATST, like telling the drivers of the ATSTs, keep shooting, keep firing. Hux was the one, like he just had enough that at that point he was like, he's not, you know, no, like chill out, no one's there.
This is enough, man.
Yeah,
you think you got him?
Yeah, exactly. You think you got him? So like I saw it coming from 7 and 8, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, I hope J.J. Abrams really takes us in a fun direction, and I know that he will. He seems to be more George Lucas. You know, he seems to be esque is what I'm trying to say. He seems to be someone who really is in touch with what George would have wanted.
Yeah.
You know, rather than going on his own string. I mean, Last Jedi, like I said, I've now seen it 4 times total. Mm-hmm. Out of all the Star Wars movies and even Clone Wars, I've watched that one the least.
Yeah.
Because it just is not, I don't know, it just doesn't hit me the right way. I mean, I love Star Wars, don't get me wrong. I have a hard time watching Revenge of the Sith, I cry every time, and even though I say I'm not going to, but it's not as, I don't know. To me, it doesn't just seems kind of out of place.
And I mean we've talked about on this show plenty of times how the connection just wasn't there for you and a lot of Star Wars fans out there with Episode 8, you know. But, with Episode 9, I just hope that, I know, like, we live in the social media age. I just really hope the directors and producers, at the end of the day, they make what they want to make, because you can't please or satisfy everybody. So they need to just take that into consideration and just make the best movie that they possibly can.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. All right, so we're going to be talking about Mandalorian lore. So I'm going to go first with just a little bit about the planet. And the planet, approximately 7,000 BBY, the Tong leader, Tang, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
The Tong
leader, Mandalore, the first led his followers from Room to the New World. So they were originally on another planet, and then they came to Mandalore. And it's kind of cool that the planet is named after the leader. That would be like your planet.
Yeah, that we talked about. Yeah.
So they were warriors. You know, they that's what they did. You know, they had their own language. They were real. They almost kind of reminded me of the remember the movie 300?
Yeah.
They almost seem like
Spartan-like.
The Spartan kind of guys.
Spartan-like, yeah. And reading tidbits of the book and looking up some stuff online. We were looking up some stuff yesterday. My thing that I took from the Mandalorians were just their, you know, we spoke about codes and code of ethics. There, it's a strict code. It's it's strict enough to where they kind of get too suspicious of one another.
Yeah.
Where the trust it's there, but the grasp of power is also lingering over them too, just knowing who they are, the Mandalorians, and what they could do and stuff like that. So they take the code of ethics to like this whole another kind of
level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they have, you know, they had people that even like we're talking about Star Wars with Hux and Kylo Ren, you saw that even with the Mandalores, you know, they did have some warring factions that, factions that wanted to kind of take over and run it the way they wanted to run it.
Exactly. And a lot, and that's actually a good point. It's that everyone sees a way how they would run it. So it's one of those things where it could collapse from the inside.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It could implode. I guess implode is the word.
Yeah.
From the inside, is because everyone has these different kind of views of how they want to run, different kind of views of power, of course, different kind of ways, different views of how they would run things. Like any other faction would have, just with the Mandalorians, they're just so dangerous. They're so well skilled and well spoken, well versed, and just not. They're just, you know what I mean? They're just dangerous people. Yeah,
just like the guys, you know, the Spartans. They had a certain code they went by. Mm-hmm. You had to be, you know, fit to be part of the army, and they really had a strict code. So I thought that was kind of cool that when I read that about the planet, I didn't realize, you know, at first I thought, oh, okay, the Mandalorians came from that planet, but no, they originally came from Rune, and then they went into the New World. Yeah. So some of the codes that you found were what they have specific.
And what they expected, almost like how, like, it's crazy how good the analogy was used was the Spartans, because that's not what I took from how you say it now is like really really registering in, but how they ate, how they slept, how they drank, what they expected from one another on the combat battlefield and training.
Right.
And also they kind of treated themselves. They're almost like like agents kind of. They were well versed, like I said, well versed earlier. Like other languages, they made sure to have their intel. They're one of the that was like a word used, I believe, in the book. If I remember correctly from the tidbit I was reading, was intel, making sure gaining intel, and that's very spyish and you know what I mean, and they're very tactical too. So that's what I took from the Mandalorians, how tactical they were, even different from the Empire and the Jedi too. They were just so much. They were so tactical that they didn't want to go in any situation surprised by anything.
Right.
You know, they wanted to make sure like
they
I
covered
knew you would
all
do
the
that.
bases.
Exactly, and that attention to detail. How they have that much attention to detail to that, but also struggle with keeping some members intact is kind of offsetting.
Yes.
In a way itself. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. That's so in the detail you kind of forget about what's going on around you.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's kind of, you know, like we said, the Spartans, and the same thing with the Templars. The Templars back in the 10th century were like that too. They were well versed. They had their own banking.
Yeah.
They had their own, you know, they had their own situation. So they were able to, wherever they went, were able to manipulate and get what they wanted from wherever they went.
Yeah.
And so that you kind of, whoever created that kind of used those two things as like a framing of a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was really cool. And I also wrote this, an Old Republic Mandalore is the title given to the sole warrior who rules over all Mandalorians. The title is neither inherited nor democratically bestowed, but it is claimed directly by one hoping to take up its responsibility. So possibly killing the one before that, or if that person passed away. But I'm thinking more like
almost like a lion herd.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Mandalore translate as soul ruler.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like,
so, and I could be going back to what we just said, the friction that just goes on, but it might just be who they are as people. To be a group, but also there has to be one.
Yes.
You know, that lingers probably over everyone's head.
Yes, and it seems like that in even when you look at like a Marvel comic, like Black Panther.
Yeah.
Same thing. They had a soul ruler, but even though everyone worked together, there was a soul king.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it kind of, that you're kind of getting the same thing when you saw that. I did not know that the name Mandalore meant soul ruler. I thought that was really kind of cool. And it was used, the name was first used by an ancient warrior king who led the Mandalorian people in seeing the new world, like I had said, and to occupy that this day, and to this day. Let me see, I'm going to skim over because I wrote a whole lot of stuff.
As per
And I thought, you know what, there's no sense in going over a whole bunch, but they commanded loyalty from the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
They wanted that.
Yeah.
Mandalorian was a mercenary warlord who took the name Mandalore 4,000 years ago. And this was before the Galactic Civil War. He wore a full-face metal mask and was the model for the Mandalorian super commandos of later generations. Mandalores are deadly, honorable crusaders. And that is kind of the same thing when you see the Templars. They were considered crusaders.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. So that's why you see them wearing those masks. They wear the full armor because it's kind of fashioned after the very first one.
Yeah. After the very first.
Right.
Yeah.
Mandalore. During the Sith War, Mandalore and his army swore allegiance to the mystical Kraith sect. During the Clone Wars, the Jedi defeated a group of Mandalorian warriors. Bounty hunter Boba Fett wore blast-resistant armor and used ships and weaponry based on the Mandalorian design. Mandalorians even designed imperial dungeon ships. Introduced during the Jedi Purge, and that was to contain dangerous Force users.
Oh, that was
so
the purpose
he
of
helped
it.
them. Yeah, that was the purpose for that. So when we see his ship, it's because he designed it because he knew that there were powerful Jedi that could defeat him.
Yeah.
And so he had to put him in almost like when Superman, you know that kryptonite is
It's his weakness.
right. So he put him in a ship, that he knew would protect him, and be able to get those Jedi. I feel sorry for the Jedi.
But it goes back to them just being tactical and not wanting to be surprised by anything. Just
Right.
taking all necessary precautions. that's one of their ethics to not be, you know what I mean? So that really makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
very, very smart too.
Yeah. And it goes down the rabbit hole a little bit deeper. So
Yeah.
okay. So what else do you got?
Well, I remember one of our first episodes we talked about like their armor.
Right.
And the way how it was designed and how we were referenced already back to the Templars, and kind of that being the staple of how their armor is, and how the Mandalorian, how they're ran like the Templars of the, I believe, what is it, the 1600s?
The 10th century. It started from the 10th century to the, I believe it was the 14th century.
Yeah, and also also the Templars one, and how yeah,
we have a studio audience
Chris,
today.
Chris, keep it down, buddy.
Little Chris.
Keep it down. But also how ruthless they could be also.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think well, a lot of Star Wars fans obviously know, but for the Star Wars fans who don't really know about the Mandalorians, or this podcast is your introduction into Star Wars, the Mandalorians are a violent bunch.
Yeah. But they're loyal to each other.
They're loyal to each other. I guess you could even use loyal to a fault, but they definitely are a loyal bunch. And they expect so much from one another that dark cloud of untrust also, like, I feel lingers over them too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of weird. It's like, could you trust someone too much? You know, that kind of doesn't make sense.
I think they might have had, okay, they talk to each other, they trust each other, but they had other people.
Whispering
right.
as well. And maybe they're easily influenced by those whispers when they shouldn't be. Maybe that's their weak point, is being influenced by those whispers when they, you know, and that could lead to the dysfunction that we know the Mandalorians have from time to time.
That's true, you know. And when he was first introduced, and I believe it was in Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
He was introduced. You see that armor, and he didn't have much. Just like Darth Maul, did not have much movie time. He had a short amount in in Empire, and then when he's in Return of the Jedi, there really isn't a whole lot of time there either.
Yeah.
And I think people, they saw that armor, and it just lit them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out about the braids.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you'll like that.
What did you find out about them?
You know how you can see Boba Fett has braids. You know what that is? That's Wookiee hair.
Oh,
from
really?
a skinned
For
Wookiee.
Oh, and is that something that they just kept a battle, you know, that they kept?
Yeah, like a battle trophy.
Yeah, like a battle trophy.
That's so sad. I didn't realize that.
That's really kind of haunting, too.
Yeah.
That's really haunting.
Yeah, I've seen some of, I saw a little bit of artwork that Dave Fioni did when we were at the celebration, and we were doing the 10th anniversary, and he had some sort of ship. He had drawn some sort of ship, and on that ship was like a flag of some sort. That was actually Wookiee skin.
Oh,
like
wow.
a skinned Wookiee.
Like a skinned Wookiee.
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
So
that's
Wookiees
really...
are just like the bears of Star Wars, like the
they're like the
bear rugs of Star Wars.
Yeah, they're like the buffalo.
Yeah, like the buffalo, like the bison of Star Wars.
Yeah, you collect, or an elephant or
Poor
whatever.
Wookiees,
It's like
man.
you get their trophies.
They're stuffed Wookiees, and someone.
No, they skinned them. They skinned them, and it was a flag. I'm like, no.
Oh.
Everybody was upset, but I didn't know. And my friends of mine are Mandalorians. They're part of the Mando.
The Mandos.
Yeah, and so they have those long braids, and I never knew that's what it was. Now I'm gonna have to confront them.
Oh yeah, please do, and make sure you go at their neck too. How could you? Kind of people?
I can't believe you're wearing that. So I did a little bit of research about Jango Fett, because I wanted to know why Darth Tyrannus wanted this guy specifically to be the template for the clones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you ask yourself, why in the world did he want this specific guy to be the template for millions of guys?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting. He was born to a family of farmers, grew up alongside his sister Arla on the world of Concord Dawn, an agricultural planet in the Mandalorian sect.
Mm-hmm.
Fett's father was a civilian lawman who took over the role from Jester Muriel.
Okay.
Okay, so his dad.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, it's in a long. I mean, it must have been like 5 years of comics from what I could read.
I think I've heard it also on the Kevin Smith podcast somewhere. I've heard it on the Kevin Smith podcast.
Talking about Jester. Now, Fett was a young man when the Civil War began between the true Mandalorians led by the Mandalore at the time, which was Jester Muriel. So he was Mandalore at the time. So he was their leader, the sole leader. And Death Watch, led by Toro Vizsla.
Mm-hmm.
Vizsla? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Tor Vizsla?
Death Watch was a violent Mandalorian splinter faction. So here we're talking about these people wanted it this way.
Yes,
the true Mandalorians wanted it that way.
Exactly.
Okay, so the war spills out into Fett's homeworld. Fett's father grants Jester Muriel and his men refuge on their homestead. Death Watch found Jester and his men, and what he did was he lured him out by, first he grabbed Jango, and then his father came out, and his father wouldn't tell them where Jester was, so they beat his father savagely in front of him until he was able to escape. Yeah. So Jango Fett escapes, but he thinks his mother, father, and his sister are killed, and I think his mother and father are killed, but the sister escapes. So So he ordered Fett's dad ordered him to run. So when he gets loose and runs, he thinks that his parents are killed along with his sister. Fett and the true Mandalores regroup in a nearby town in order to stage an ambush on Death Watch. During the ambush, Fett found a soldier from Death Watch who killed his parents, and he ends up killing that guy. Before he does that, he's slashed in his face. So that's why you see that line in it. Right. And so he gets slashed in his face by the gauntlet vibro blade. And then he ends up killing the people who killed his parents. So from that point on, he becomes this killing machine.
Yeah.
So
can't help it.
No, he can't help it because now he's angry.
Can't help it at all.
Right, and in Muriel's eyes, after the fight was over, he sees the potential in Jango, so he takes him and raises him as his own son. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's crazy how with Boba Fett, how that road took him to be like just kind of just a hitman. Like he could have done so much more, honestly. Boba Fett, like how smart he was, how tactical he was, how careful he was.
He could have done more.
He could. That's what I mean. He could have done more.
Where I wasn't reading as much, so the comics could go on, or even books could go on to explain how much more he did prior to getting Han Solo. But his death was like, well, we don't even know if he really died in there.
Yeah. I'm assuming so.
I don't think he got killed. Someone is saying no.
That he just fell in.
He fell in. He was able to survive and shot his way out. Now that wouldn't surprise me. Remember, he has armor on.
That's true. He does have armor.
Yeah. So Fett's sister. This is really interesting. Fett's sister survives. His sister Arla survives the battle, unbeknownst to Fett. So he has no idea that his sister has survived. She gets taken by Death Watch, and Arla joins Death Watch after many years of being in prison. So I think they call that, oh my gosh, when you start becoming part of who imprisoned you. I can't think of the name of it.
When you become a part of
Yeah, it happened to Patty Hearst. Oh my gosh, I cannot think of the name.
Like when you become one of...
No, you become part of them because you're brainwashed into becoming them. So I can't think of what the name is.
I can't think of the term right now.
Yeah. But there is a term for that in real life.
Not fusion,
even though Star Wars is real life.
Not fusion.
No. I forgot what it was called. Something. I'll think of it. I'll
Okay,
think of it.
yeah.
And then Arla joins Death Watch, and then she becomes an assassin, and then she gets arrested for a shooting 10 years before the end of the Clone Wars. She is put in a mental institution on Coruscant. She is set free many years later by a Jedi turned Mandalore, and his name is Barden Jussilk. Oh my gosh, man! Some of these names.
These names, yeah. Some of these.
They flee Coruscant following Order 66. Jussilk offers to use the Force to wipe her memory of all the traumatic events in exchange for intel on Death Watch. So they do in Clone Wars, they do have a run-in with Death Watch, because you've seen Clone Wars, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when Duchess Satine is running Mandalore, they're more of a subdued group of people.
Yeah.
Even though they consider themselves the true Mandalores and the Mandalorians, it is the Death Watch that doesn't consider that. And what happens to them is really interesting too.
And if you want to see like what we were talking about earlier, all the Star Wars fans, or the fans who are just getting into Star Wars who listen to the show, if you want to learn about the Mandalorian, just basically like a 2-part series where you see Dutch Satine and what she goes through with her people, and then you get to see actually the Mandalorians how they are amongst each other at their camp.
Right.
As a separated faction of what.
Right. I believe that's Death Watch.
Yeah, that's Death Watch. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
and how they
check those episodes out.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, you see, I think they did Clone Wars in order to fill the gaps of what people were like, okay, what is Django all about? And they read the comics, but they still wanted more, so they got more with the Clone Wars. And I think Clone Wars really, they spread it out like peanut butter and jelly, man. They made sure we knew these different stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what's crazy is Obi-Wan ends up falling for Duchess Satine, who is a Mandalorian, and then he ends up fighting with Jango Fett, and you know what I mean? They have he's entangled with a lot of people.
Yeah.
He ends up getting entangled with Darth Maul, who becomes linked with Death Watch. So it's a vicious, awful circle.
Yeah, it doesn't get any more vicious than that.
No. And I was wondering, I told you a little while ago, I was like, how in the world did they choose Jango Fett for this template? What in the world what were the specifics
what made him qualified?
Right.
To be,
and what gave him this honor? And then it says 10 years before Clone Wars, Jango Fett agrees to serve as the genetic template for Clone Wars for the Grand Army. Fett killed many Jedi, so he actually kills Count Dooku's, at this time it's Master Dooku's Padawan. He's able to defeat him, and he's doing it with just his blaster.
Yeah.
He's not using any kind of force. He's not using any kind of sabers. He's not using anything like that. He's able to defeat them, and he's killed quite a few Jedi, and to the point where he is developing a reputation.
Yeah.
For being a very good hitman.
Yeah.
So that's why he got put into this role. So when Dooku falls, he knows the man he wants for the Grand Army to be built after. So I thought that was kind of cool. He offered him a large sum of money. What Fett wanted was he wanted a clone of himself unaltered. And did you know that that Boba Fett is the very first clone that they actually made?
Oh yeah,
I did not know that.
First successful.
Yeah,
clone.
when they first did it, I think that the Kaminoans, I said that right this time. The Kaminoans, I think of David and I think of how he says it, and he's like, "You're saying it wrong. You're saying it wrong."
Thanks, David.
Yes, thank you, David. But the Kaminoans, they were very good at what they did.
Yeah.
They were very good at creating armies. We don't know what other army they created, but they were very good at that. So he knew that when he asked for this specific thing, he was going to get it. And he actually raised him from a baby on. So and I thought that was kind of cool that Count Dooku actually remembered Jango Fett and thought, okay, when he falls to the dark side, that's when he wanted that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he wanted. Now it kind of contradicts, or maybe it doesn't. Because I don't know what the time frame is between the Phantom Menace and it could be 10 years.
Could be.
I think
Phantom
it
Menace
is.
to what?
Phantom Menace to the Attack of the Clones. I believe it is 10 years.
Oh, like a 10-year
Period.
Yeah.
Because once Qui-Gon Jinn, he's
7-10.
something like that. Yeah. Once he's killed, that's when Count Dooku falls to the dark side.
Yeah.
Because I think he kind of gives up on the Jedi, and they create. This is right when they start to decide to create the army, because he doesn't do it alone, or he sends the other Jedi in to do it, but we don't even know if that Jedi had fallen.
That's true. Now did she say that?
Yeah. Now, what was really interesting is Fett enlisted 3 Mandalorians to help with the training program for the clones. I did not know that.
And is that just because, like how we said, they're like the Spartan type, just highly skilled,
Yes.
no better? Who else would you rather have them train against? Okay.
Yeah, and
Didn't know that either.
I didn't know it either. And then Mark was telling me, yeah, I read it in a book. I'm like, okay, we need you on the show. Because you've read 80 books, upward of 80 books, and so you should know. But he said that they actually had a group of guys that were going to be exterminated because they were way too smart. And so one of the Mandalorians took the guys on special missions to teach them. So you have a specific group of guys that were like highly skilled. And I imagine that with the clones you did get some that didn't meet the expectations, so they ended up
the standard and expectations.
Yeah, they were the janitors of for the Kaminoans. They were janitors. So I thought that was really kind of cool that they had enlisted, because you see their training program in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
And this was made by 3 Mandalorians.
Yeah.
So these guys, the clones were actually pretty much true Mandalorians. Yeah. Even though Jango Fett wasn't a true
Mandalorian, but the training kind of, so you're basically up to, your training is basically what a Mandalorian training exercise would be. So you're up there as far as training.
Oh yeah.
You're,
and they sent some of the guys on special missions, but they also, because that means they were loose before even Obi-Wan gets there, because they see him marching and everything else, but there's a ARC troops that are out there doing stuff.
Yeah.
But they have to hurry because they only have a specific amount of time.
They got a time. Yeah, they're on the clock for sure.
Because I think they only lived to 20 years, maybe.
They didn't live that long.
They didn't live that long? No, they might have made it to 15.
So that's less than 20?
Yeah, they might have made it to like 15, because remember, they were 10 years old. Some of them were 10 years old when they released the army in Attack of the Clones.
That's right.
Because Boba Fett is 10 years old when his father's killed.
Yeah. And he's already ready.
Oh yeah, and you know why he's ready? Because prior to them finding all of them on Camino,
there you go.
he was already going on missions with his dad. Mm-hmm. So his dad was training
him as he went on. Yeah.
God, he could have been 2 years old and his dad was taking him.
He was showing the kids up, especially one kid in particular. He was showing him up.
Yeah, but he was aging at a normal rate.
Yeah.
So he was 2 years old and he was teaching him, and he was taking him out on missions, so that when he was 10 years old, he can fly the ship. You remember?
Yeah.
Because he tells him to start the ship.
Exactly.
So he already had a lot of training, and he could have been training with those kids.
Yeah, he could have been training
with himself. And many of himself.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Now, I don't think we know for sure they all didn't think the same.
No, they all definitely thought they each one of them thought differently from each other, which is also pretty cool, but also what leads to catastrophic.
Yes. Because they had a chip in their head. But but you notice they had a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And where did that come from? the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
That couldn't be helped.
No, I think that was just bred in them because it was a clone. I don't know how people cloned, like, how would you clone, like, I know there's a sheep that's cloned.
Mm-hmm.
One, I thought the sheep was sterile, and I thought that I find it strange that the clones were not sterile.
Yeah.
Because it's obvious they were fathering kids.
Yeah. So your question is, how do you...
I was wondering I find it amazing that they put a chip in their head to make sure they followed Order 66,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't make sure they were sterile, so they couldn't have kids.
Offspring?
Yeah. I thought that was kind of weird. Okay, so you got some more for me? Because I'm just chattering.
No, you're fine. My thing with the Mandalorians was just, well, like I said, it's crazy how you relate to the Spartans because I never would have. That was the last thing that came to my mind.
I love the Spartans.
Other than the Mandalorian armor and combat, it was just intriguing because anything that has to do with like a brotherhood or a unit always related to like what I have going on over here, and the no nonsense, the code of ethics, the code of arms, even if you say, that's the most intriguing thing to me about the Mandalorians. Is how they moved and how there is a unit in brotherhoods throughout Star Wars. If you think about it, even a sisterhood with the witches, a brotherhood with the Jedi, even the Empire even has their own kind of brotherhood.
Right.
But how different the Mandalorian brotherhood is, just because Jedi, they expect a lot out of other Jedis in the sense of like, you know our rules, you know what we don't like, and you know what we you know Empire as well.
Right.
Traitor, all for the Empire. But with the Mandalorians, it's a little different because to me it's even much so a little more harsh because it's so tight. But within all that tightness and and everything like that, they still don't really fully, I feel like they trust each other fully. Like they feel like they'll be sabotaged by one of their own at kind of any moment.
Right. And you did see that even in clones. With the clones, they kind of, there were groups and factions that would kind of not get along with each other.
Yeah, and that's how.
But they were loyal.
And that's how like we just spoke about Death Watch. That's kind of how Death Watch was kind of formed, just because Death Watch was like the radicals, like kind of the radicals out of the Mandalorians who didn't like the way how their planet or how their government ran things. They felt like their government was a little too soft, and they needed to take it back to the true Mandalorian fashion of no prisoners, no hold bars, 100 speed.
Oh, and they were willing to do it.
They were willing to do anything for it, even compromise their own planet or their own government to do so.
And their own people.
And to not be Force users at that.
Yeah.
Just highly skilled, highly trained, highly tactical, just knowledgeable. That was my whole thing about with the Mandalorians was like that's so impressive.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive, and yet like a little bit disappointing too, because like I always said about Bo, he could have done a lot more. The Mandalorians could have done not the Mandalorians could have done a lot more, but you got to think like Death Watch could have done a lot more. What they could have done, you know what I mean?
I think they do. I honestly think that they do, because Death Watch was that splinter group that opposed the pacifist government of the Mandalores, led by Duchess Satine. I wonder if they considered her Mandalore. Is he going to lose his shoes? Chris has got
Palpatine again.
Palpatine. He may lose his shoes again. Mm-hmm. After failed attempts to take over Mandalore, the group became part of Darth Maul's Shadow Collective, which successfully took control of the planet during the war. And they end up killing Duchess Satine.
In the most brutal way.
Yes. And they did it in front of Obi-Wan, which was tore me apart. I'm telling you, man.
That was insane. That's why I'm saying everyone
I cried.
Just watch those 2 episodes. I believe it's 2 episodes.
Yeah, it could. Well, it could be 2 or 3.
3. Could be 3. Yeah,
2 or 3.
Could be 3. Yeah.
Yeah, but it actually ends up being Darth Maul and his brother who end up killing Duchess Satine, because Darth Maul got cut in half by Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan seems to be entangled in a lot of nasty stuff.
And a lot of cutting of halves of people.
hands.
Yeah, bodies, waist, all kinds of stuff.
But he seems to be entangled in a lot of this, and he's got a part in it. And even, Boba Fett and Jango Fett have got a real serious part in this. Mm-hmm. Even though those guys, it seems to me that in Attack of the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith, you see it's mostly Attack of the Clones where you see Jango Fett.
Yeah.
But the comics, I was reading like the cliff notes of the comics, and it just was really intense. Whoever has read those comics know everything about it.
Oh man, I think I gotta take a look at those.
Yeah, because I thought it was really cool, and it is the Jango Fett and Boba Fett kind of comics that that are really in depth of what these two guys were.
Yeah.
Even though they were technically the same guy.
Yeah.
They were father and son, but they oddly were technically the same guy.
The same person, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy to think about.
Yeah, and he thought the same as his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe his dad wanted him to think like that. That's why he trained him as a child and instilled that. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree that he wanted, because some fathers do that with their sons who just play sports. Like it could be a dad who played football his whole life and raises his son, breeds him in a way where he becomes a successful. Like you're gonna do what I did, but even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes that can backfire.
Big time.
Yeah, some kids, they decide they do not want to be part of any of that, So I just think it's really interesting, especially the loyalty, the warriors, the way the Mandalorians looked at things. Mm-hmm. They wanted it their way, and they were willing to do whatever it takes to get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they wanted it to stay true.
Yeah. They definitely, they're and I understand as far as being a person of like growing up with like a culture. We all have a culture, and you can't help but to know, like, you can't help but to do your own research as far as your ancestors and things like that. And the Mandalorians, they seem like they're so proud of their ancestry that there's Mandalorians out there who are so proud of their ancestry that they want it to be like back then.
Right, they want it to stay true.
You have people in America who feel the same way about their forefathers who wanted to be just how it was back then. So I just like how it all ties in together,
right,
with the reality and it being also the Star Wars being fictitious as well. That the Mandalorians, they're so intact and involved with their past. How Mandalore became of Mandalore, that they want things to just be like that.
And crazy as it sounds, we're talking about the Mandalores and the Templars. I believe that the Templars are still around today.
Absolutely.
I believe they are. I believe they came to America, and they had said, what, this is where we're going to make everything happen. Yeah. So they went from Europe because they were chased out by the Catholic Church, and they ended up going to. I've seen a lot of History channels. So
it's a lot of modern marvels.
Yes, I'm seeing this on History Channel, and it seemed to me that they had gone all the way to Ireland, and they went that direction, and then ended up getting on ships and going to the New World and kind of establishing, because as strange as it sounds, Christopher Columbus could possibly be a Templar.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by that.
By Chris, he's holding the palpies.
Yeah.
That Christopher Columbus, they say from watching the History Channel, he was actually a Templar.
Yeah.
So he was maybe possibly sent there, already knew that this was going to be where they were going to go.
Where they were going to go.
Or they could have already been in America.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't. They're really mysterious anyway.
No, they weren't going to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Much like the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Much
plus,
like
the Templars were they're tied to whatever secret society that people have in their brain, whatever notion it is. They're tied to it too. So they're just a mysterious bunch.
Yes, and the same thing with the Mandalores. Because if you look at Boba Fett's costume, because I'm looking at it right now, He had all kinds of gadgets. He had jetpacks. He had rocket darts. He had fiber cords, a grappling device, a miniature flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
Who carries that around?
Him.
Like his helmet featured a micro binocular view plate monitoring a motion sound sensor. He had a targeting and intercom link in his ship. He had all kinds of bells and whistles. Yeah. And it says he wore a braid of a scalped Wookiee on his right shoulder. Gosh, I can't believe that.
That's the part that's getting to me.
I know, and you know what? I have friends that have that armor, and now I know what it is. I'm like, oh no. But he gets offered a large sum of money, like his father, to go and get. He got it from Jabba the Hutt to go and get Han Solo.
Yeah.
Oh no, who offered the money?
Who offered
for Han Solo?
Who offered the money?
Yeah, the bounty
to give to Bubba? Wasn't it that dude with the scars on his face? It wasn't. What was his name? Raven or something like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, but it was Jango Fett who put the bounty on his head, right? I'm sorry, it was
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt who put the bounty on his head. Yeah. Yes, because remember they were on the ship.
The enormous bounty.
Yes, they had a big bounty, but they were also on the ship with Darth Vader, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. But I don't think Darth Vader.
But Darth Vader wanted Luke.
Yeah, he didn't want Han. Jabba wanted Han.
Right, and then he was actually double dipping then.
Who, Jabba?
No.
Boba
Fett.
Boba Fett.
He was double dipping because he was going to get Luke for Darth Vader, and he was going to take Han Solo
for Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, so double dipping.
The ultimate task.
He was up for the task.
Yeah, he was up for it though. Yeah,
because he did it.
He was up for the task.
Yeah, so it says here that he had agreed with Darth Vader to hunt him down. Mm-hmm. So he actually is able. I mean, that's how skilled he was. He was able to get pretty much put him in the same place because they were in Cloud City.
Yeah. It's just really that. Well, I know we're talking about Boba Fett a lot. Can't help it, but the Mandalorian people are gonna really make me dive into the book and probably finish it really, really fast.
I want to know what happens to them. I'm gonna look into it too. What happens to all of the rest of the Mandalorians after they join the Shadow Collective? Because I don't know what happens to them. I mean, I'm not.
Maybe they get dispersed on different missions, or
they may have. I mean, and does Mandalore still exist in the New Republic? You know, you don't see anything like that.
Yeah.
So do they still exist in the New Order time, or did that get blasted out? I'm gonna have to look into that because that I don't know.
They're scattered around like Jedi. Yeah, we don't know the answer to that.
Well, during the time of the Last Jedi, there's only Luke and Leia. Mm-hmm. But there are some of those kids, but they don't have
a Jedi. They don't have a school or a place of where Jedi are.
Right. They just have the Force, but they don't really understand it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna have to definitely look into. I didn't even think about that. To look into, you know, what happened to the Mandalorians? What happened to that tribe of really skilled warriors? And it makes you wonder. You know, they're very skilled, so did they just go into hiding?
Maybe. Prideful. I'm thinking prideful people, warriors, intelligent, prepared. Always. I think you kind of make your living just being a hitman or a bounty hunter. You're just around. You're never standing still. The people like that don't stay in one spot. Because you just blow your cover. You just, all that you work for, all the money you've accumulated doing these hits or doing these jobs, it's not safe to stay still. So you're just bouncing around. So I'm assuming it's a life of just on the run, hiding the next job, the next quick target, and then get your money and just go on.
Yeah. Because during the time of Return of the Jedi, when Boba Fett supposedly gets killed, is he the last Mandalorian? You know, is he the last guy? That would be something I'd want to know.
I don't know.
This and many facts we're going to look up.
But a really good episode, just because the Mandalorians are, since they're not Force users, but how we speak about them, you would think so.
Yeah.
But they're just highly skilled, and they just know what they're doing as far as when it comes to combat, and I'm pretty sure other things too, not just combat, but just the way how to operate as a unit.
Yeah.
Minus the untrust and distrust, or what I guess you want to say.
Well, I'll definitely look into what happened in the Mandalorians, and was there ever a Force user that was a Mandalorian? That's interesting.
That's
because
interesting too.
There seems to be, there are Force users all over the galaxy. Yeah. So they don't.
So there might have been one at least.
Right. And I mean, they seem to be a different species. You saw that in Phantom Menace, there were different species of Jedi, because we didn't see that prior. We only saw Darth Vader and Luke, and then eventually Leia. Yeah. But we don't see any other Force users. But we do see them in Phantom Menace, and they seem to be of all different walks. So I wonder if a Mandalorian was ever a Force user, or there's ever one that went to train at the temple.
Temple, yeah.
So that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do some fun digging and facts. Okay, so next week, what do you want to do? I'm gonna let it be your call, Aaron.
What do I want to do for next week? I think next week I want to dive into. I know we speak about it a lot, like episode 8, but I kind of want to go into what you really assess what it is about episode 8 that you didn't like, and what you're looking forward to, different scenarios, different ways things could possibly play out. What you want to see in episode 9.
Okay.
Because before you know it, episode 9 will be out. That's how with all the movies you really want to see, like Captain Marvel. Trailer came out yesterday. Next thing you know, it's gonna be March. And we're gonna be seeing the movie. So
Gosh, don't say that. That's so fast.
It's crazy how it happens. So I kind of want to go into that, and also go into what I'm expecting too from episode 9. Yeah,
and what I thought about. I mean, like I said, I don't want to, because a lot of fans do like it, and I don't want to rain down on the parade. I just was not happy, but I will pen it down and tell you what I thought. I'll watch it again, I promise, without falling asleep. I've been trying to get through Harry Potter.
Oh, okay.
And so I keep falling asleep. I put it on last night after I got home from practice, and I was like asleep after 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, I want to kind of dive into that, because like I said, next thing you know, episode 9 will be out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, and then Solo comes out. Solo's already released on digital. Yeah. And the movie should be out soon. I think, me personally, I think that it's going to do better on DVD.
Yeah, I
than
agree.
it did in the movie theater.
I agree. Already on digital, like on PlayStation, it's like on the PlayStation Store, it's like the trending thing.
Yeah, so it's already popular.
Yeah.
Because they were saying that The Last Jedi was the top selling out of the year, which I find hard to believe. But it is the top-selling video sold out of the Disney
bunch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hard, because I know a lot of people really liked Black Panther. They liked Infinity Wars. So I'm like, you sure?
Yeah, but there's definitely Star Wars collectors out there too.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
They get their DVD.
Dust collector.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna do it for us this week. Please like and subscribe on YouTube for Radio Geonosis. You can follow us on Facebook with Radio Geonosis 2.0. We're on CastBox, Radio Geonosis.
We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I believe we're on Twitter as well.
Right.
I mean, we're pretty much all over. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube. We get 100 subscribers. We get our own URL.
Yes, please do. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.